Let me get into this. Okay, so Leviticus says the exact same law. It says this: if anyone takes a life of a human being, it is to be put. Life of a human being is to be put to death. Anyone who takes the life of someone's animal must make restitution. Okay, I would focus on that word restitution. The word restitution means to be restored, right? So if you hurt someone's animal, then if you take their goat, you have to give them a goat. You take their calf, you have to give them a calf. You have to, eye for eye, like even for even, you have to make restitution. And then it goes on and says, life for life. Anyone who injures their neighbor is to be injured in the same manner. Fracture for fracture, eye for eye, tooth for tooth. And the one who has inflicted the injury must suffer the same injury. Now, this law was to the benefit of humanity. This law was given to the authorities. It was given to the judges and the overseers. So this is like, hey, overseers and judges, people are getting hurt and they're going above and beyond hurting other people back. Stop that. You oversee this process, and to whatever degree a person is hurt, you make sure they only hurt back to that degree. This was actually gracious. This is actually calming wars down and brutality down, the scripture was. And so this is scripture for the authorities, how to help people get through this. So this is what Jesus says. You have heard it said, an eye for an eye. And where you heard it was from God himself. Where you heard it was, this is the just way for things to be, and that there has to be restitution. For any harm done, that harm has to be paid for in some way. There has to be a restitution for it. So that's what Jesus is saying. You have heard it said, okay? Go back to Matthew chapter 5 then. The very next verse, verse 34, it goes on, and he's, verse 39, I'm sorry, he goes on and says this, but I tell you, so Jesus says, you've heard it said, an eye for an eye. And Jesus says, but I tell you, look at this, do not resist an evil person. If anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to them the other cheek as well. All right? Jesus says, you've heard it said eye for an eye. You know who you heard that from? God himself. But Jesus is telling you, don't resist an evil person. If someone slaps you, turn to them the other cheek. Now, Agape City Church, here is the $1,000 question that you should be asking yourself. Why did Jesus change the law? If this is a law from God, and I think a law is like the laws of thermodynamics, right? Like I think a law is like this is the way it has to be. If God says an eye for an eye is the way it has to be, why does he get the authority to change God's law?